Hello and welcome to ScrewyLoops for another episode of Before You Ride, where we give you everything you need to know about a coaster, who it's suitable for, who may enjoy it, whether it's worth a 100 plus up to 60 or less than 20 minute wait, and finally whether it's worth making a trip at all. You're watching ScrewyLoops and this is Before You Ride Icon at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Blackpool Pleasure Beach, the UK's most iconic theme park, as quoted on the website, an absolute vintage gold mine housing classics such as Big Dipper, Ghost Train and Flying Machines, and also broke a few records, for example Europe's first fully looping rollercoaster Revolution, and even more famously the once world's tallest rollercoaster called the Big One. Genius. Regardless of what you may think, it was the Big One which truly put Pleasure Beach on the map. Park owner at the time, Geoffrey Thompson, took a massive risk by pushing such an ambitious project into the seaside resort. Never before had a UK park attempted to build a coaster anywhere near this scale. Pleasure Beach teamed up with Big Boys Aerodynamics to construct this monstrosity of a roller coaster, and despite the odd few complications, the Big One opened to be a roaring success. Sure, by today's standards, the shaping and transitions feel a bit rough around the edges, but back in 1994, the Big One was a beast. Theme park fanatics from all across the globe travelled miles to ride what was the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster. The Big One became an icon and quickly turned into the park's most successful addition to date. Over the years, the park continued to grow and add new attractions. Valhalla was their next major investment in 2000, costing a whopping £15 million. Although this wasn't anywhere near the Big One's scale, Valhalla was yet again another valiant success, also being regarded as the best water ride in the world on 3 occasions. Sadly, Geoffrey Thompson passed away in 2004, resulting in current park owner Amanda Thompson taking on the role. The following year saw Pleasure Beach undertaking much redevelopment, with several ride removals in the entirety of Beaver Creek being rebranded into Nickelodeon Land. With many smaller attractions added to the park, everybody was waiting patiently for Pleasure Beach to announce the next big thing. Plans emerged in 2016 showing off what would be the next major project in the resort. Alongside this, the park also released a simulated POV which quite literally got that hype train rolling. There was an air of excitement in the theme park community, but also the sweet taste of anticipation, as Icon would become the park's first ground-up coaster for a total of 24 years. Seriously, in the space of time it had taken Pleasure Beach to build a brand new coaster, many of us had been born, subsequently passed university and even got married. Fast and Furious also released a total of 10 films in that same space of time. This was huge. Icon opened in 2018, branded as the UK's first double launch coaster. Constructed by Mack Rides, Icon would also be the first Mack launched coaster for the country, and whilst not as statistically heavy as the Big One, Icon provided a refreshingly lengthy layout which would be unlike anything else in the UK. With Blackpool Pleasure Beach leaning more towards being an amusement park rather than a theme park, means that theming isn't an essential ingredient when building attractions here. That being said, they haven't completely ignored this either. The visual representation of Icon was based from one of Amanda Thompson's dreams, which was littered with beautiful cherry blossom trees and lots of gold. It's an interesting style for such a coaster and is a great way for Amanda Thompson to make her mark. The plaza area looks nice and sleek, offering some great overhead views of the coaster too. Everything around this area retains that visualisation of Amanda's dream, and for such an unusual theme it still fits in with the park really well. Now this is where we first see a bit of that mysterious Mack Rides magic. The queue line is extremely short, not one single cattle pen, just a long straight path from the entrance gate into the station, and the park have done this with confidence, fully believing that the queue will never reach beyond that entrance gate either. Sure, when there's a breakdown it can often stretch towards the plaza, but even on the busiest of days you won't be waiting longer than 20-30 minutes thanks to Icon's fantastic throughput. The queue line is rather nice too, modern and visually pleasing enough to the eye. Even though the station does kinda look like a giant shoebox, it's not as much of an eyesore as I was expecting. You get a great spectator view of the initial launch, which is entertaining to keep watching as you wait, and more overhead views of Icon's second half as it flies above you. Now, this is a Michelin star station if I've ever seen one, full of gold, glitz and glamour. Icon's station is beautiful, the lighting is spot on, and there is this cool wall effect where you look in the mirror and it creates the effect of crumpled gold. You can queue for the front, although it is a bit of a tight squeeze, and there is a bag hold on the other side to skewer any loose articles in. I must admit, Mack Rides sure know how to make some great trains. The seats are very spacious and comfortable, utilising a lap bar which sits soundly on top of your, well, lap, also giving you that much needed leg legroom to flap your legs around like a floppy fish. If fish had legs, that is. I also love the golden snakeskin design these trains have got going too. I've heard some people call them tacky, but honestly, I think they're fabulous. You need to be 1.3 meters tall to ride Icon, which is great for those who are slightly too short to go on the big 1.4 meter frills around the country. Interestingly, the back seat is restricted to those above 1.5 meters instead of 1.3, giving an even more spacious seat and lap bar. This isn't necessarily designed to give the optimum airtime or most intense ride, however it is in place for those who can't quite fit in the other seats, so they can get a ride on Icon as well. Win-win. So then, who exactly is Icon's target audience? Now this is where it gets a little bit confusing, as the first half could easily pass as a family thrill coaster, whereas the second half resembles something a bit more extreme. If you're nervous with launches, then you have absolutely nothing to worry about with Icon, as both serve as mere pushes to reach the maximum velocity. They are extremely tame. If you're afraid of heights and sheer drops, you shouldn't have a problem with Icon either. Most of the coaster remains very low to the ground, and aside from the initial top hat, there are no sheer drops to be found. The trains do boast lap bars, but they feel very secure. It only goes upside down once, however the barrel roll does give a little hang time, but it's over very quickly. Starting with more of a whimper than a bang, Icon kicks off the experience with a weak LSM launch, and honestly this wouldn't have been such a glaring issue if they didn't put so much emphasis on these launches. Icon is marketed as the UK's first double launch coaster. 90% of the queue is focused on this initial launch. You're even held for several seconds before the word Icon is lustfully whispered in your ears as you speed off with the force of a wet fart. People argue that the launch is only a means of gaining momentum, but like I said, when there's so much emphasis on these launches, it's hard not to feel disappointed. Luckily, the shallow beginning is quickly counteracted with the next section. Bursting through mist so thick it makes Silent Hill look like Sunny Beach, you gracefully emerge into a top hat, packing some nice airtime on the way down. The following first half of the layout contains some great interactive moments with the surrounding coasters, which really shows off how tightly they had to squeeze this in. The pacing around here isn't exactly outstanding, but there's a couple of cool elements to keep things interesting. Most notably the S-Bend segment, an evident nod to Cheetah Hunt at Busch Gardens Tampa, one of the main inspirations for the design of Icon. The barrel roll offers some decent hang times, love it or hate it, and the perky ejector double whammy before the second launch comes as a great surprise. Like the initial launch, you won't get a massive kick from the second one either, although it does accelerate you to the ride's highest speed of 52.8 miles per hour. You then travel through the Junior Melman, flipping you back around and providing a good pop of airtime as you exit. The second half of Icon sacrifices interaction for a much tighter G-force heavy combo. This is definitely the most exciting part of the layout for me. Gone is the relaxing cruise speed pacing of the first half, in is the unstoppable wrath of don't stop me now, I'm having such a good time. You hurtle around that track like Michael Schumacher do in his weekly shop, packing some sweet sustained G-forces and a superb pop of airtime too. It's a little bit overkill with the bank turns, especially the final stretch, but for the most part it really works well. For Blackpool Pleasure Beach, Icon is as smooth as you can get. It's not glossy smooth by any means, it does love to rumble around some of those turns and can often give me a bit of a headache on repeat rides, but you can't really complain when it shares the same park as Infusion, Grand National and the big one. So with that being said, is Icon worth a 100 plus up to 60 or less than 20-minute wait? I'm leaning more towards up to 60 on this one, and that's not because it's a bad ride, it isn't. Icon is good fun, I just don't think it's quite the Icon it's set out to be. It's definitely a step in the right direction and is an ideal modern coaster to the lineup, but after 24 years of waiting, I was kind of expecting that little bit more. And finally, is Icon worth making the trip at all? The park took a massive risk in 1994, opening a type of ride which would both shock the world and draw all eyes on Pleasure Beach, whereas in 2018, they made a relatively safe investment, going for a ride which was already popular in other parks back then. They opted for quality over bravado, and whilst Icon is something unseen in a UK park, it's nothing exactly new from the outside, and I think that's where people are going to draw the line. If anyone is going to travel far for a Mack launch coaster, it's probably going to be Helix in Leesburg. However, if you're in the UK and you're yet to ride Icon, 100% make that journey, it might just be worth your time. Many thanks for watching guys, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I just want to give a massive shout out to Scott from PBE. This man has saved my life by letting me use some of his Icon footage. For all things Blackpool and more, make sure to check his channel Pleasure Beach Experience out in the card above. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit that like button, smash subscribe for more content like this, and give the bell a flick to keep all up to date. Top left is the latest video, bottom left is a random one, and make sure to hit the button on the right for the ride of your lives. You've been watching ScrewyLoops. Ta-ra a bit.